It's like I wrote a book a year ago, but people are just now getting to read it. You're going to want to see this one.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream.
Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti. I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And I did a video. I released it to most everyone this morning, but I did it late last night right before I went to bed. And let me tell you, I was tired last night. So, I just couldn't think as I went through those court docs. I even said, I said Big Barlow instead of Vargas. I got slammed for that one. But I just couldn't think. My mind was just not working. Well, today, of course, me and the wife, we actually had a job that we had to go do, even though we're not supposed to work for another month. But we went and did that job this morning, and let me tell you, I forgot how much clearer that I think while I'm working. The whole time I'm working, it allows me to just think freely. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. What's going on in our case today? And it's amazing. Folks, it is absolutely amazing. Because let me tell you, by the end of this video, I'm going to explain what this unsealing of the IGG is all about. And it's not going to be new information because I said it clearly almost 8 months ago. And let me tell you, when I say something, it's not just having a conversation in a 3-hour video where, people might suggest something. When I say something, I spell it out in stone and I use a timeline and I go into great detail about it, just like I have in this case. And we are right here now watching exactly what I said would transpire almost 8 months ago. And I'll prove it here in just a second. And in fact, it's been so kind of frustrating for so long, because for so long, I had to listen to everybody tell me about the WSU cops that found Bryan Kohberger's car on November 29th, because that's what was stated in the PCA. That's what mainstream media blasted in every documentary little series that they did. And to this day, I still hear Nancy Grace and Chris McDonough, all of them still say the same thing. Oh, the WSU cop was the one that found them, just good old-fashioned, boots on the ground police work.
Part of your affidavit talks about WSU officers finding white Elantras. And I believe there was an officer that you had some communication with. Do you recall the date you had that communication?
I do not recall the date. No.
Did you have some messaging system exchange with this officer to talk about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the only means of communication you had with this officer?
No, ma'am. I believe I spoke to him on the telephone as well.
When you spoke to him on the telephone, how did that relate to the date of the messaging?
It would have likely been, if memory serves, it would likely been that same day.
Okay. Does December 20th, 2022 sound familiar to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And so this conversation with this officer from Washington, it related backwards to when he noticed an Elantra. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But when he noticed it, you didn't know about that yet. Is that also correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so you don't know about him or talk to him until December 20th, 2022, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
BS. I say it today, and I said it 8 months ago very clearly. So they never got anywhere near Bryan Kohberger's name until December 19th. And I said it 8 months ago clearly, and I've said it 100 times since then. So they never got to Kohberger until about the 19th of December. And it wasn't because of an IGG. It was because of the confidential informant. And how did I even know this? Because I looked at the court record for Farley. And I said, look, they didn't get to Kohberger till the 19th because that's the day that he made his super deal. And I said that over and over. And then I had to go through and explain to people because I had to listen to, well, the FBI was following him with the two, stops that they made on the way to Indiana. I clearly explained in several videos, went over it several times. Those were not meant to be pulled over. Those are not the FBI checking on Bryan Kohberger. Those are drug interdiction stops. I proved that. I said that clearly, and I will show you here in a minute.
There was a mass shooting and everything. Where?
I think he just said criminology major, right?
But the other thing that I wanted to discuss is these actual traffic stops. A lot of people have a lot of grand ideas about why these traffic stops happened. The FBI wanted them stopped for this or that or for surveillance reasons. No, these two traffic stops were drug interdiction stops. They were stopped by Highway Patrol both times on a major interstate. They're driving, and it's two men driving. This is how the officers look at it. Two men driving in a vehicle without estate tags. Well, they could potentially be carrying drugs or drug money. So they pull them over, and this is the dead giveaway of why this is the case. Because when they pull them over for driving too close to the vehicle in front of them. They were following them too close. That is almost always the reason that they give for that traffic stop, because most people that are driving, carrying drugs or drug money, are following all traffic laws. So the only one that they can get them with is you were following the vehicle in front of you too close. That's what they use almost every time. And when he approached the vehicle, he has his initial questions. Where are you going and where are you coming from? Okay, so those two questions have absolutely nothing to do with following somebody too close, but those are the initial two questions that Highway Patrol drug interdiction teams use to start establishing the credibility of the story of the drivers and the passengers of the vehicles. And if those stories create more questions, then a whole other process comes into play. They realized real quick that these guys weren't carrying drug money or carrying drugs across the country, and that's why they let him go. The second stop, again, a different Highway Patrol officer following the same process. Hey, you were following that guy too close. They said, yeah, we were just stopped, about 10 miles back by another guy. He said, oh, okay, well, then you obviously don't have drugs or drug money, and went ahead and let them go. They didn't get on to Kohberger until December 19th. And then I would end every one of those videos and I would say, now it's time for you to make a decision. Is it the confidential informant or is it the IGG? I think I've said that now 100 times over the past year. Let me show you what I said I might have been more than 8 months ago. Today, I've got some pretty shocking news for you. Not really shocking, it's just a verification of shocking news that I've posted in the past. I like to verify myself as I go. So, first thing I want to discuss though is this morning, there was a doc drop for that video, for that hearing that they had on the IGG. And again, folks, the IGG is nothing, right? It's absolutely nothing. However, it is smart on Ann Taylor's part, because if she's able to discredit the IGG, and basically what she's trying to do, because it keeps stating in the IGG over and over, or in the court documents over and over, that they don't want the defense talking to people in Bryan Kohberger's family tree in the IGG without court approval first. What they're scared of is they're going to find somebody that either adopted a child or had a child out of wedlock, which would have impaired the genealogy line. And if they can find somebody like that, interview them, verify that it's true, they can discredit the IGG altogether. which the IGG didn't lead to anything. They're not bringing it up in court, so it's kind of a moot point. But if they can prove the IGG is wrong, then she knows that her main goal is to discredit the confidential informant in the case. She knows there's one. That's why she files all of those motions talking about discrediting the reliability of the confidential informant. So that's all it is. And when we talk about the confidential informant in the Kohberger case, well, I'm going to bring it to you tonight, folks. Put it there for you in black and white and continue my timeline. Here it goes. Everybody wants to know, how did they get to Bryan Kohberger? Well, here it is, folks. This is the informant timeline through December 20th of 2022. And I think it's an easy path to this, especially if you've watched my previous videos. Now, this is not everything in the timeline. This is just the informant aspect of it. But you're going to see, starting to the left, on September 14th, 2022, TF and TR are arrested for drug trafficking in Moscow, Idaho. Now, we've already discussed how it is my opinion that the mothers in the case set up TF and TR on that date to be arrested. And that set the ball in motion for the Aryan Brotherhood hit. Because TF is definitely a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. But on October 21st, TF is released on furlough. TR is released on a $75,000 bond. So that means somebody paid $7,500 at least to get her out of jail. Then we have November 13th, the atrocity at King Road. Next date on the informant timeline is December 2nd. TF is picked up in Spokane on his warrant for absconding from his furlough. Then December 15th, Kopaka is taken out by the Pullman SWAT team. December 19th, TF makes the deal of the century with Mabbitt, Thompson, and John Judge. So let's go through this, folks. Here is what I mean when I say the deal of the century. Because as you see on the screen, this is TF's charges. Drug trafficking in methamphetamine. That is a Schedule II drug, folks. Over 400 grams. That's over a pound. Possession of a controlled substance, drug paraphernalia, possessions with intent to use, and a couple of probation violations as well. That was his charges. Now, who was the judge in the case? Well, it was switched over from Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall on December 16th to Judge John Judge on December 17th. And you can see this plea arrangement was made with John Judge on December 19th, 2022. You'll see I have it underlined there. And by the way, the actual plea went through and a probation was given to this gentleman on December 20th. Now, what is the possible sentence for somebody drug trafficking over a pound of MTH? Well, you can see this is an easy Google search where the Idaho legislature under section 37-2732B is 400 grams or more. Such person shall be sentenced to a mandatory folks, minimum fixed term of imprisonment of 10 years. Means the judge doesn't have the power to impose a sentence of less than that. And fined not less than $25,000, not less. But I want you to remember that fined not less than $25,000 because let's see how much of a fine that he got. Okay, so here was his sentence right here. You'll see his confinement was the county jail, Latah, for 30 days. And you can see that 2 to 3 years sentencing. No, he wasn't even sentenced to probation for 2 to 3 years. His penitentiary suspended completely. He was charged $285.50 court cost. So by reducing those charges from drug trafficking and having to give him 10 years and a $25,000 minimum fine, this guy got 30 days and paid $285 in court costs and walked on December 19th. Now, you think that's a little bit odd, folks? Who was all involved in this deal? Because to make a deal like that, the prosecutor has to agree with it. Well, he's got his Well, look down here as public defender Kathy Mabbitt, the coroner in the case. You think these people are actively involved in the Kohberger case or in the investigation in general? And we've got the prosecuting attorney, William Wolford Thompson Jr. And then, of course, John Judge was the judge overseeing the deal. So if you have any doubt in your mind who the informant is in this case, they should be gone by now. But it's going to get even more interesting in this one, folks. I've got some new stuff for you. So let's go through this timeline once again. We got TF and TR arrested on the 14th. 21st, they're released. November 13th, the atrocity happens. They're picked back up on December 2nd. At least TF is. Kopaka is taken out by the Pullman SWAT team on the 15th. On the 19th, TF makes the deal of the century with Judge, Mabbitt, and Thompson. What happened on December 20th? Now, it was always my speculation, but now my speculation has been verified in court because Detective Payne admitted on the stand that on December 20th, that's when the actual investigation into Bryan Kohberger started. That's when he talked to the officer at WSU about the Hyundai Elantra. And it hit me today. That's exactly where we're at today. Why does the defense want the IGG unsealed in open court? Folks, I missed this in recent docs. I don't know how I missed it, but it's the key to the entire case right here. And you'll see up here, first of all, let me point this out. They were talking about the no-knock and you know, where they busted in on Kohberger's house. And it says because Kohberger was wearing the same gloves millions of homeowners wear to do the dishes. So he wasn't in there wearing, you know, surgical gloves. He was in there wearing those big yellow rubber gloves that you wash dishes with. This is the kind of crap that they've been hiding and manipulating the media with since day one. But you'll also see it says two more things of note. According to police, they had snipers watching Mr. Kohberger go from room to room, obviously greatly reducing his chances of posing much of a threat. And although the state oddly claims it is not true, the FBI had been surveilling Mr. Kohberger since December 21st and had many occasions to take him into custody. The state had identified Mr. Kohberger on December 19th, 2022 through investigative genetic genealogy. The state had obtained aerial photographs of the Kohberger residence on December 21st, 2022. There's the Cessna that Howard Bloom talks about in his book, except Howard Bloom lied and said they were watching him way before that. Nope. The state had driven by the Kohberger residence on December 23rd, followed Mr. Kohberger on the 24th, and cameras were placed on his parents' property on December 25th. Trash was taken from the property on the 27th. So here's the actual timeline. So right there, for the first time, they're stating unequivocally that the state identified Mr. Kohberger through IGG on December 19th, 2022. Just like I said 9 months ago, it was December 19th. That was their date. Except I didn't know 9 months ago what I know today. And obviously, if the IGG was manufactured in reverse, they didn't do it in an hour. It probably took them a couple of days. So I believe they actually got onto Kohberger with the Kopaka unaliving. Now I know the real connections between everybody involved in this thing, and now I know who the informant really was informing on. It wasn't Kohberger, it was Kopaka. So they unalived Kopaka. Through his digital devices, they got to Kohberger, and then they remanufactured or just manufactured a IGG, and they did it in a very fast amount of time, in a couple of days. And that is going to be their downfall in this, because the IGG is not legit. All right. And I've said it 1,000 times now. It's either the confidential informant or the IGG. But now I understand what Ann Taylor is actually doing with the IGG suppression motion and trying to get everything unsealed. Let me ask you this. Would it benefit Bryan Kohberger's team for them to unseal a legitimate IGG that legitimately led to Bryan Kohberger in open court for the world to see, just so they could point out that maybe the FBI used a database they weren't supposed to use? Do you think that would be a smart move for the defense at this point in the case? This isn't the trial, right? The trial is still 6 months away. This is not going to garner any kind of public, acceptance of Bryan Kohberger's civil rights being violated for this. So it would be a completely moronic move by the defense to put out in open air that the IGG led to Bryan Kohberger. Think about it. Now, what makes more sense? You see, the defense has figured out that the IGG was BSS, and they want to prove it in open court, because guess what happens? In an open hearing, as they're looking to suppress the IGG, and then they put these witnesses that they've subpoenaed to the stand on the stand for the whole world to see, and then they're able to trip them up and show where they fabricated that IGG. Then what does that do to public opinion in the Bryan Kohberger case for the next 6 months? It flips it on its head, because if they prove the IGG did not lead to Bryan Kohberger, that it was fabricated, then guess what else they just proved when they did that? They proved that the DNA was manipulated as well. If they fabricate an IGG family tree, that's all they have to prove is one fabrication of anything related to the DNA in the case. And then all the DNA in the case is tainted due to possible fabrication from that point forward. That is what this is all about, folks. And I lost my mind thinking, wait, why are they suppressing the IGG? Why would that even be a motion? They wanted to suppress the DNA. Didn't even hit me. When they try to suppress the search of him in Pennsylvania and the search of him in Idaho, both of those searches collected what? The buccal swabs. So by eliminating both of those searches, it eliminates both of the buccal swabs, which eliminates the DNA match. But that's a whole nother point. It's the IGG that they want uncovered in open court for the world to see. They want that for a reason. And I assure you, it's not to show that the FBI used some other database and got a direct match. That would tell the whole world Bryan Kohberger's DNA is matched to that knife sheath, and everybody for the next 6 months will go, I wish they'd hurry up and convict this guy. They are not that stupid, I assure you, and you're not that stupid either to believe that bull crap. But like I said in that video earlier today, I am working on a video on the original hearing on the IGG, because that's what was stated in the court docs that they're going to be relying upon. I will have that one out to you tomorrow. But then Sunday night, I've got a video that I should have completed, and I'm going to blast that thing Sunday night, because I have taken painstakingly, details, and I'm going to prove Bryan Kohberger didn't do it. Not only that, I'm going to prove whoever the person was driving the white Elantra making all those passes didn't do it either, because there's no way they could have. And I'll have that one out to you Sunday night. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.